Hey everyone, welcome to Trader Jake's channel. Got a couple of names that I just wanted to cover briefly. Been a crazy week in the market, and I think that it's about to get even crazier coming into the end of the month as some of these monthly candles are starting to close into this next week, into Thanksgiving, and going forward into December. There's a lot of opportunities that are setting up. So these are just a few of the ones that I'm eyeing. Of course, I'm only going to go through a couple of names, whereas I realistically am seeing about 20 to 30 setups, which tells me there's either going to be some very big overall market movements or there's about to be a lot of failure that comes. And with failure comes new opportunities. So let's dive in. First name that I'm looking at is going to be Square. I am currently long this already. I got long around this day as we pulled back after the breakout. What I'm seeing here is that this has a very, very good shot at getting into this gap fill as just a simple target. My targets are actually way higher than this, realistically speaking, into the end of the year, as I'm personally targeting this 127 area, which would give Square about $30 of range in the next 45 days or so coming into the end of December. And that's all relative if the market is going to hold up and get this kind of sector rotation into these ARKK names and these ARKF. So these two sectors I am really watching as some of these names are just really starting to look extremely good going into the end of the year. So this one I'm looking for as long as this general area holds above this all-time high VWAP around this 88 to 91 area. Ideally doesn't come back down below 84, but if this holds, this has massive room up on the higher time frames. I got the monthly chart over here to the right. You can see it's kind of like an inverse head and shoulders. I really don't care about patterns as much, but what price is showing me is that this is ready to expand, especially if these sectors are going to start getting bid up into the end of the year. I'm currently long the 1220 calls on this, and I would probably look for some further out, maybe January, mid-January dated calls to swing, but this is looking very good. So this is number one. Gonna switch over. This is Ddog. I am currently swinging this as well. I got long this back around 128 to 129. Got the 140 calls for 1220, so those are moving really nicely. I got them, I think, around $200. They were trading around 1700 into the close, but I still think that this can have a massive move from here, depending on what the market brings into next week. And even though I mentioned that the calls I am personally in are up massively, I still think there's more opportunity for maybe some weekly contracts or some day trades going in and out. As long as this gap up holds on this day and this daily range can hold and start to build for higher, ideally not come all the way back down to this 138 area because that's going to be pretty ugly. This could be a pretty big runner in the next couple of weeks. I personally think we will get at least two 174s, but that's all relative to overall market dynamics. So we will see how this plays out if this can continue the momentum. And that's because we have other names like CRM that is starting to set up again. I am swinging this as well. And everything that I'm basically going to cover, I am swinging because these setups look absolutely incredible to me. And the risk reward is worth it for me. So CRM has an inside day going into the close on this Friday as I'm recording this. It stalled directly at my 345.40 level that I've had since before we even got there around this area. And if this is able to successfully clear, this has a clear $10 to $20 move up into this 354 to 360s. And if we get 372 before the end of the year, basically before mid-December, we get this price. This implies 400s into quarter one of 2025. So be mindful of that. Maybe set alerts at this level because this is an expansion and this is new all-time high. So this does have a lot more room to go. The weekly is looking pretty nice too. Another one that I was going to watch, I'm not actually in this yet because this does have pretty expensive contracts. This is CrowdStrike. Don't worry about the right chart. That's just a mess right now. But on this daily chart, this is starting to build and reclaim pivots. This had some kind of crazy news back in July in which it obviously took a massive dump from there, from 380 down to 200. And this held a very perfect spot, which was the former all-time high VWAP from back in November of 2021, which that was the exact low in August before getting this rally back up. So we are starting to build on higher timeframes. This is starting to look very constructive. No matter what happens on earnings, whether this gaps down into this 300 to 320 area, because I would assume if it's going to gap down, it's going to gap down in this area. If this does not resolve to the downside, this has a massive upside move coming. I think that this could get 447s into the end of the year, but that's, of course, if this is going to get a constructive move up. We've seen Snow and panw report this week, and they had some pretty crazy moves. So let's actually cover those real quick. panw, I'm not swinging this, but I did trade this on Thursday, this earnings reaction. This was a pretty incredible trade off of this rebounds of the previous all-time high. If this is able to continue to hold this general range, and I would say ideally not dip back into this gap fill that it did today and held, this has a good shot of getting sympathy back into new all-time highs. And this is setting up on some really good time frames as well. The monthly still has room. We are currently breaking all-time highs on a lot of these cyber names, so definitely keep them on watch. So going into the next chart, it's going to be Aapl. Aapl, I am long this because I do think this monthly is going to get a monthly engulfing going into the end of the month. And the monthly candle does close this coming Friday next week. So that would imply a potential $7 to $8 move next week. And that's why I got long it today for the, I believe it was the 240 calls for December 20th. And the idea is that this is going to hold and this is going to get all-time high. Not much more needs to be said on this. This is pretty straightforward breakout of this downtrend, new all-time high exhaustion, pullback, holding this key 225 area. This looks really solid going into next week and into end of the year in general. And Microsoft and Meta, of course, basically all of Megatech, they look ready to explode. Home Depot, I got long this today, and I am swinging for the new all-time high. I do think that this has a good shot for it. If we go ahead and look at this monthly chart over here to the right, same thing with Aapl. There is a potential monthly engulfing taking place in which this candle has 6 days till it closes, which implies that we can get new all-time high next week, which I would assume it's probably going to get it on Monday unless this gets a crazy gap down. We will probably open somewhere similar to where this closed on this day around this 420 and get a spike up off the open into all-time high. It's kind of what I'm thinking. And if that is going to hold, we do have a very good probability of getting to my levels that I don't have marked on the chart, but it's basically around 426, 442, 475. So this could really get some range expansion coming into the end of the year. So the last chart that I wanted to cover, and this is going to be the best trade, I think, going into the end of the year if this plays out the way that I am anticipating. Tesla is finally showing constructive action for new all-time highs. This has a good shot of getting new all-time high into the end of the year. I am swinging this for next week contracts. I am swinging December contracts as well. They are pretty pricey if you start going out past that, so I probably wouldn't recommend that. I'm not recommending anything, of course. This is just all my opinions, but this looks absolutely amazing, especially considering the fact that they were finally able to close above this current range that they were just stalling at for this entire week. The reason for that is because this 338 to 352 area is such a big pivot on Tesla, and the market knows this. If this is able to get proper expansion next week, we can get a move to 376 to 377 into about 386 area, which would be about a $25 to $35 move in the next 4 or 5 days. I think this is probably one of the highest probability trades coming into the end of the year if this is going to keep continuing. I've said this in my past post on Twitter and everywhere else I've posted this chart. that the next time this breaks, this 265 to 270, I don't think it's going to stop. It's going to get 300s and go pretty quickly. That's what's happening so far. And the reason for that is because every single time this has gotten massive moves up, everyone knows this is such an easy short because Tesla has been the worst performing tech stock of the mega 10, whatever it is, in the last 2 years, basically. That is starting to turn. I think that is going to be a dramatic downfall for the people who have been shorting this because they can basically add fuel to the fire. And when this does not get that short trade to play out, this has a parabolic move to the upside coming potentially in the next month, month and a half. Other than that, that's what I got for you. Probably have a couple more names to look at, but just follow me on Twitter and look out for what I'm posting because I'm basically saying all of the things that I deem high risk reward, and I'm looking for quality, not quantity, going into the end of the year and into February to March timeframe. I think there's a reckoning coming in the market. So be careful, stay alert, stay aware, be selective with your trades and trade smart. See you guys in the next one.